Welcome back to the Foundation in C# course. We're currently in Module 9, and this lesson we're going to wrap up what we just learned or kind of review and talk through different things. So we learned a couple of things in this module especially. First of all, if you've got errors or bugs, you should probably at least address them. Otherwise, they might cause problems for you down the line. Also, and here's where our tip comes in for today, test the edge cases when you're testing your application, not just the most common scenarios. So when we talked about our application, in theory, we just put in our start date and end date and hit submit and then click one of the selections that it gives us. So one of the room types and then go ahead and book. That's the common scenario. However, we also tested, and this is where it broke, we had to fix it, was we tested the idea of what happens if you hit submit again. And that was a problem because it didn't give us our dates properly. So you might make sure you test even those edge cases, not just the standard cases. Now, we did not put error handling in for every edge case because again, we're going by the idea of a minimum viable product. You're probably tired of hearing me say that by now, but it's really important you keep that in your brain. And so since we're doing an MVP, we didn't test every single edge case. So I didn't test the idea of what if the user didn't put their first or last name in? Guess what's going to happen? It's going to allow them to book, which isn't ideal. So we do want to put some data validation in place. That goes on our list. And that's a really important thing, again, to have is that feature list. Put it on the feature list. You may find you have to take things off the feature list and put them into the MVP list because they're just requirements. We try to put that bug on the feature list because it wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal because it affected our next step. And so we had to take it off of the feature list and put it into the MVP list to solve right away. It can be really tempting to not put something on either list and just start fixing it or just start doing it. Maybe it is making those forms look a little better, or maybe it is adding a little validation. And it's really tempting to do that. The problem is that your application grows and grows and grows, and maybe you're not really planning out your validation. You're just saying, oh, I want to have, validate the first and last name. Yes, but did you validate the dates? Did you validate the first and last name the correct way? Are you making sure that it conforms to the company's policies on what a valid first and last name are? All of these things are important. And if you do a little piece of it, you may not do the rest, or you may have to undo the work you've done. So you definitely want to plan out the work you do, which means putting it on the list. But when you put it on the list, you have to evaluate, is this important for the application to go live? The temptation will be to say yes more often, but default to no. Default to that goes on the feature list. And you have to prove that in order for this to be on the MVP list, you have to prove that it is essential for the application to work. That way, if you do it that way, you will have your application out the door, even if it's just for alpha development or alpha testing. You'll have it out the door, and you can start adding these, what you think are essential features, you can start adding them in, but you still have your application working, okay? So very important to do that, and as you're going, test those edge cases and put things on the feature list or the MVP list. All right, so in the next section, we're going to tackle the other half of our application, which is the WPF core user interface for the person at the front desk of the hotel. Okay, so come on back for that.